welcome, welcome. David and I are here with, I don't know, what are we going to do today, David?
What are we going to do today?
Well, circus.
Given that you went to all the trouble to make that intro, I guess we should do the circus.
I think so. And I can tell you that David has curated an interesting list for us. And we're going to talk about the circus performers. And this is a perfect opportunity to talk global with David as well, because the circus is very, very global, especially this artist today, right?
Yeah, and I just noticed I've got my global tour guide name up there.
Well, that's perfect. Yeah. I think.
Bingo, I'm your entertainment guide, but today
I was a little surprised at how global it was. I think that we tend to get in our own countries and we think about things just being our country and what we experience. So this is definitely going to be an interesting ride as we go through this hour. I put the bingo card up if everybody wants to grab it. If you're new to bingo, just click that link and we'll tell you the details in a little bit. And if you were watching live, thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us on a holiday weekend for the Americans. I appreciate it. It is hot out there for most of us.
It's raining here in Dallas.
You can send that one up.
Yeah.
You can definitely send that one up. And also, if you're watching after the fact, thanks for joining us as well. There will be two bingo cards for two prizes that we're giving away. And before we dig into circus, we hadn't really talked too much about this, but David and I had pretty much a bad month last month. It was not a good month. And for many reasons, most of you probably know that we both had losses. And David had multiple losses last month. And it's been a struggle to get things cheery for circus. So we had a helper that came in that has a love of circus, a love of the profiles that we're going to show you today. And I don't know if we could have done it without her, David. She really, I asked and she jumped in. And let me introduce everybody to Dee Lancaster. Hi, Dee.
Hi, Dee.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks for helping us. Thanks for buffing up some profiles for us and digging around WikiTree.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And I had so much fun doing this.
Oh, good. This is kind of what David and I hope that everybody that's watching this will see somebody or something, a topic or a person that you really attach to, that you enjoy and you have fun with, and you'll take it after bingo. Increase their CC7, give them a better biography if they need it. Fill out their family tree. These tables that David made, they're not exclusively just for the three of us you see on the screen. They're for everybody on WikiTree. Dig on in, have some fun with it. Okay.
And I think that's real key to bingo and a couple of the other notables project or challenges that we do every month, the sports challenge and the TV USA challenge. Sandy and I take genealogy very seriously, and a lot of our groups, as those of you that have been around know, they take their genealogy very seriously. And it's not that we don't take the notables seriously, but there's a whimsical piece to it that I think is a nice break from some of that seriousness. And so in researching the circus, or again some of our other, what have we done, the Brewers and romance novelist, and we take the genealogy portion seriously, but we also have fun with it, and it's a nice break from some of the intense stuff that we wrap ourselves up in elsewhere. So.
It really is, because you can only work on your family for so long before you got to leave and say, I need a break from family, or your own brick wall. For example, sometimes you need to walk away so you get fresh eyes. And I love this list that we curate every month for you. It's a really fun list tonight. I'm going to drop some links in there too, so you guys can check them out and see how you're connected. I am curious, though, to know about everybody in chat into the circus. Did you like the circus? What was your favorite part of the circus? Any circus information you want to share with us, let us know. And I'm going to ask you guys too. So, Dee, circus. Love the circus? Been to a circus? Went to a circus as a child?
Unfortunately, I have never been to one.
Oh, wow.
My only experience is watching it on TV or in movies. But you know, I loved watching it when it was on television, and I always thought that being an aerialist would be a really fun job.
Oh.
I don't know that I would have been graceful and non-klutzy enough for it.
You never know. You never know. David, what about you? Because this is David's topic. David came up with this, and David came up with it a big smile.
Yeah, I have a fascination with the circus, and circus life, particularly 1800s, early 1900s. My grandmother took me to the circus when I was a little boy, early 70s probably, and I can't say I was a big fan of it. The trapeze acts terrify me. I once went to Circus in Las Vegas, and they have the trapeze acts going on up above the slots, and I had to leave. I couldn't have people swinging around up there above me. I'm not a huge fan of clowns, and I don't care for crowds, and I don't like loud noise. So, but as I told Sandy yesterday, I said, other than that, I do like the circus. But actually, just last year, we went back to the circus for the first time. It's changed. They don't have the animal acts like they used to. It's a lot more acrobatic, and it's not all up in the air. So it was actually quite enjoyable. I had a good time.
And I want to point out that thank you, Christine, for mentioning this, because literally a week ago, I created a one-place study for a WikiTreeer who has the last name of Baraboo. I'm probably saying it wrong. Baraboo West, and his family is completely from Baraboo, Wisconsin, which is also where one of the circuses that's where they have their warehouses. They pack up everything from there. And so, of course, I had to ask the WikiTreeer, please tell me your family was in the circus. He goes, no, we avoided it. So it's funny.
Yeah, Baraboo's really well known where I'm from.
And they have a parade and everything. I am not a huge fan of the circus. When David mentioned this, I was like, well, that sounds like fun. And then we started digging into it, and I started realizing, why am I not a huge fan? I'm having some anxiety over the circus. My mom was a single mom and very poor. So when we would go to the circus maybe every other year, it was a big deal. She had to save up for a year. And it was always kind of the same thing. You're eating before you go. Don't get any snacks. You're not getting any souvenirs. We're sitting up in nosebleed. But it was, she just kind of took the fun out of it. But also, I don't particularly like clowns or mimes. I like my space. You know, I don't like anybody invading my space. So that was kind of my thing. But my kid, he loved the circus when we used to take him. I think it was the Big Apple circus that would come to town and in a tent or something like that. I can't remember. But let's go ahead and show you guys our circus page. And this is linked. I think it's also linked at the top. This is also linked down in the description. I will give you the link to it. And one thing to keep in mind, this is a work in progress. And we're going to do this in two parts, right, David?
Yeah, so as Sandy mentioned, we've had some situations at home that took us away from WikiTree quite a bit this month. So this month's tables are probably 75% complete, but not all the way. So you'll see that some of the names do not have links to them. They don't have profiles yet. So people that want to come in and work on the tables are free to select any of the profiles that are, well, any of the individuals who do not have profiles and create those profiles. I will go back over the next week or so and create the ones that need to be created. But I welcome the help of anybody that wants to step in and create some profiles. You can't see it there on the screen, but you'll see a few as we go down there. There you go with two of them right there.
So please create them. There's Wikipedia pages for them.
Yeah, there's Wikipedia pages. So they don't need to be real elaborate, but get something up there and we can start working on the connections and writing biographies, etc.
And if you
there was a few,
then put them on the table too. You're allowed to edit this table. You're
Yeah, the
allowed.
table is open, so anybody can come in and work on this. So yeah, if you get another name, if you see somebody that you think is missing that should be there, go ahead and add them in.
Good, because I had a couple of that I saw that you didn't pick up, and I thought they really deserved to be on there.
Yeah, when I pick the names for these tables, I'm often starting with a blank slate. Some of the topics, it's pretty good. If Sandy picks the topic and tells me what she wants, some of the times I've never even heard of any of these people. So circus I had a little more knowledge of, but I just start Googling and doing research, and it just pulls itself together. In the beginning, I don't make any effort to work on diversity or popularity. I just come up with names, and then I start. We have to drop a lot of people that are living, people that. With some of the circus performers, they went under stage names, and nobody knows what their real name is.
That was
From a genealogical perspective, that does us no good. So I had to knock those off. So there's a lot of things that gets whittled down, and then I start looking to make sure we got some diversity. I try to get a lot of these fields don't have as many women in them, so I try to pull some in, African Americans, people from different countries. This one though took care of itself.
It did.
A lot of women in the circus, and a lot of famous circus performers from around the world. So it didn't take a lot to do the diversity here.
I was shocked. I was really shocked how many women were, and most of these are global. There's not too many Americans, right, David?
Not compared to normal. I didn't count. There's a number of Americans, but there's a good number that are not. I mean, it might be 50-50, but that's unusual. And a lot of that is we get Americans and Europeans a lot, but you don't get like the circus is big in Asia and it's big in Latin America, but they didn't have the same worldwide fame, so they don't have Wikipedia pages and they don't have the same level of ability. Not just with the circus, but with any of our topics. It would be great if we could have somebody from every country of the world. We actually tried that with our which one of the sports was it? Was it cricket? I think it was cricket that we did, and we had 90 players from 90 different countries. But you can't do that with every topic. Even something as like movie stars. There's a lot of countries that have never had a famous movie star, or if they do, they're still living because they've got current stars, but 50, 100 years ago they didn't have stars. So the diversity is a challenge. And then the other problem with diversity is you start getting people from Thailand, and I think we have one from Siam in here somewhere. How many people know how to do, well, Siam is Thailand now, but how many people know how to do Siamese genealogy?
Yeah.
It does kind of restrict us a little bit there too.
But prove us wrong, please.
Yeah, well, and that's the whole point of the global project is to work out. So we put them in, but we have to make sure we got some balance so that we want some low-hanging fruit, and then we want some challenges so that everybody's got something they can work on.
And a little bit of everything as we go through. Okay, so we thought we would start by talking about the most popular that are out there. So again, if you have somebody that you think should be on this table, please add them, because what happens to these tables after bingo? Well, David and I kind of move them over to connectors and try and convince some of the people doing the connectors challenge every month to work on it. We always post the tables over there as well on that project, but we want everybody. So anybody and everybody that has an interest, work on them. If you do particular challenges for your particular country project, grab one of them. And I know that, for example, Germany took one of our brewers that was not connected, and we didn't get connected before bingo, and they added them to one of their monthly challenges. So feel free. Okay, so
these tables never come down.
That's a good point.
Even after the month and we start something next month, these stay up, so you can go back all the way to the beginning. And we do have a page that has the main bingo page has a list of the past.
That's right. That's right there. And that will always have the list as well to the space pages as we go through.
Yeah. Although I think scroll up just a little bit there, Sandy, just above the first.
The first one's the new bingo.
I thought we had. Let me check here. I thought we had another page that had.
It might be on connectors. It might be. Let me scroll back over to while you look.
Okay, I'll find it while you.
And so let's talk about the three big names that I think almost everybody knows. So the Ringling Brothers. And if you've been to one of these circuses, the Ringling Brothers is the one that I went to as a child. That was the only really game in town, I think, that my mother would even assume to take us to. P.T. Barnum and James Bailey, Barnum and Bailey as well.
Yeah, so these were three circuses initially, and then P.T. Barnum joined up with James Bailey, and they formed the Barnum and Bailey Circus. And it's interesting if you look at the name, Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey. Ringling Brothers and is spelled out, and then Barnum and Bailey, it's the symbol, whatever you refer to that and sign as. And that's because Barnum and Bailey is a unit. So it's not three units. It's not Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey. It's Ringling Brothers, and then the second unit being Barnum and Bailey Circus. So it's two circuses that merged. So originally three, then two, then into one.
And they made quite a living, but they traveled. They weren't home.
They traveled. That was life. And that, Dee was mentioning one of her favorite movies, The Greatest Show on Earth, from back in 1930s something.
50s, I think.
40s, 50s. Okay, I know it's an old movie. I saw it years ago, but it's a classic with a lot of big stars in it. But a lot of that takes place on the train. And that was what circus life was. It was all about the trains, and there were a lot of train accidents, a lot of circus train disasters, and big top fires were two huge risks back then.
There were a lot of moving pieces to that.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody had to help in a circus. You didn't just get to sit back. You had to help set it up, take it down, and do a lot of work. And these were dusty towns way back in the day. These were not, luxury suites. These people were staying.
And in modern times, we have our performers and we have our crew. Back then, the performers were the crew. So.
And then let's take. I dropped links in, and let's take a little bit of a look. So this is, I guess, this is the matriarch, David.
So this is the patriarch. Yeah, Heinrich was the father. And there were 7 boys and 1 girl. 2 of the boys were not involved with the circus, but 5 of the Ringling Brothers were all circus performers. They were clowns. They were musicians. So they actually performed in the circus. And then they actually owned and created their own circus on top of that. So, and they were one of the, to this day, even though they closed down a few years ago because of the elephant issue and the animal safety issue, they've reopened. I know they're coming to Dallas next month. No more animal acts, but still a lot of really cool acrobatic. The French circuses tend to have more of the acrobatic, Cirque du Soleil, and that. And I think the American circuses are picking up on that. That's going to be the trend of the future for circuses.
That makes sense. And the one thing that was really interesting at Cirque du Soleil is they tend to go to a location, outside of Las Vegas. They'll go to look at, and they'll camp there for a while. It seems like the circuses were there for a very short time, and then they move on, especially way back in the day. But I know it was like you had maybe 5 days to go to a circus when I was a kid.
Right.
And if you missed it, you missed it. And you were going to wait till the next year to go.
Yeah, and they had a circus. A circuit. So they knew, their schedule for the year, and they'd kind of go in order up one side of the country, down the other. And, something that we need to keep in mind too, when we're talking about these early circuses, this isn't 2024, so they didn't have other forms of entertainment, and they also didn't have access not only to the internet and television, but even high quality photo coffee table books and stuff to look at animals and see those things. So when they came to town with their elephants and giraffes and monkeys, a lot of these people, particularly the young people, had probably never seen anything in their lives even close to that. They didn't have the zoos. Bring out in the maybe in the big cities they might have, but you're out in some little Nebraska farm town. The chances that you've ever seen a zebra before are pretty slim. So it was a big deal.
And it was a night out for farmers, things like that. Like I said, when they would camp out, they were pretry smart. They would try and pick a central location. Now they can go almost anywhere. But back then, you had to really work on the roads. Where were the roads to get you to a central location where you could make the most money? And then this is Bailey, as Jim's Bailey, and then this is PT. And I just wanted to point out that PT has over 22,000 CC7
pretty amazing, yeah,
connected to him. This is a protected profile. We call it a PPP, project protected profile. So I just want to caution everybody, if you think that you need to make a change or anything with something that is considered a PPP profile, the best thing to do is come down to, and this is amazing, the sources I have here, is to come down here and drop a comment.
Yeah.
And the whatever project that has it protected, and I believe this is one of the states, this is Connecticut, they will get back in touch with you and say, that sounds good, or that, maybe we need to add something to explain it. Or sometimes you just have a question and you're like, are you sure that he didn't have another child? And this is a way that we collaborate with the projects itself. So I just
and something we haven't really addressed that maybe we should with the bingo. I call them the post bingo tables, where you can go after bingo and learn more about the profiles we talk about. And that really was what it was set up for. It really isn't set up as much of a challenge as it is a place for you to go and read about the people we've talked about. So many of the profiles are very well done and don't need a lot of work. You might find something here or there that you can fix up or add. But a profile like this is fairly well completed. So we're not suggesting, by virtue of the fact that they're on our list, that they require some sort of work. Sometimes it's just to show you this is what a profile can look like. We get a lot of new people that tune in that maybe aren't familiar with what a we call them like 4-star or 5-star profiles. So it gives you some ideas for your own profiles, and that's not just for notables, but your own family profiles. You can make some pretty beautiful displays there. But then others I create just for this project, so they have 0 biography, they have 0 family members connected, and they need a lot of work. So there's a whole range in there, but don't assume because they're on the list that we're suggesting somehow that these profiles are not up to standard or need work.
Some are, some aren't.
Some are, some aren't.
Let's get into just real quickly 3 favorites, or 3 that we picked to talk about, and then we're going to do the bingo card. So right off the bat, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this particular individual. She's very, very interesting, but this is something I wanted to bring up. She was a woman, and she did own or part own a circus, and that is impressive. But the reason why I wanted to bring her up is because I instantly recognized I do not research in Finland or Sweden, but she was a major player in a Norway circus. So I reached out to somebody who's on the Nordic project, and you know how I love saying this is the power of WikiTree, and this is a collaboration. So when I reached out to him, he sent it off to the Nordic project, and what did they do? It's so cool. They went up on G to G and said, hey, we need help. At least I think that's what that says. So we need help. Who wants to help work on this person? And that's exactly how we figured out where she was born, where she died, and her history. So she ended up fostering and pseudo-adopting a circus child whose parents were no longer alive. She had one child of her own out of wedlock, which is unheard of back in the day. If you're in any major city, they would say this is unheard of, but these were circus people, and they kind of had own different lives that they lived back then. And her daughter ended up in a murder-suicide. And the Nordic Project, I want to thank everybody, as there's a gentleman named William that I want to really thank, because he had to go dig and find out where she was born. And you would think that would be easy, but guess what? These are circus people. They travel, and they travel back and forth across boundaries. And it was incredibly challenging to pinpoint where she actually was born. And then if you see this picture, her name says Laura Madigan. And this is something that David and I were talking about earlier as well. But look at her name up here. So they often went by stage names.
And there are many performers that we came across who have a stage name, and if you read their Wikipedia article or other biographies, it says straight out, nobody knows what their actual name is. Nobody knows where they came from, where they were born. So it's, I'm not going to say it's impossible to trace them, but it's going to be a real challenge to ever find that information out. And maybe with DNA.
But this is the power also of the collaboration between projects. So this was
if you also look at her vitals here, she's born in Finland. She died in Sweden. She was married in Norway. So she's all over the place.
So a huge shout out to
the Nordic Project covers all three. So
it was fantastic of you guys to help us out with this. It was a very interesting lady that created this. She was a show writer. She was a director, performer, and she co-owned a circus as well. So huge shout out to you guys for that. Now let's move on to, this is one that Dee wanted us to bring up, and I'm just going to call her Lily. And this is one that you worked on, you created. We kind of always I knew Dee liked circus. I knew that she liked a lot of the profiles that we were going to showcase. And as I said, David and I we had to take some time away from the computer. And thank you, Dee, for everything that you've done to help us. And this one was special to you.
Yeah, I ran across her and I just kind of fell in love with her. She had such an interesting story. I didn't do her biography enough justice. There's still more that I could put in there, but I just thought she was fascinating. She was born in Germany to a Czech mother. They're not sure who her father was, but they think he was an itinerant circus performer. So she took her mother's name. Her professional last name is a nickname that she had when she was a child. And she took that for her professional last name. And she was kind of an aerialist. She would do rings instead of a trapeze. That was the first part of her act. She would do double rings, kind of like you see male gymnasts do. And she'd fling herself around in all different kinds of contortions. And then the second part of her act was she would put her wrist through a loop in a rope, and she would do loops on it, just as many as she could do. And the audience would get into it and start counting them.
Oh, wow, interesting.
Yeah. And one of the things that I found out that I thought was really interesting, like David said, one of my favorite movies is The Greatest Show on Earth. I love Jimmy Stewart, and he's in it as a clown. And I absolutely adore Betty Hutton. And Betty Hutton's character was slightly based off of Lillian. She does the same thing where she's got her hand through the loop and she's doing cartwheels, I guess you could say, in the air in the movie. And so that was based off of Lillian, and I thought that was pretty cool.
And did she die in a particular way?
Yeah, she did. She was performing, and I can't tell you where because I can't remember.
In Denmark.
But it was in Europe.
Yeah.
It was in Denmark.
Okay, in Denmark. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And she was doing the routine with the rope, and one of the rings, she was doing the rings thing. One of the parts on the ring broke, and she fell to the floor of the circus. And she was still conscious. She told everybody that she would be all right and that she could get up and continue performing or whatever. But nobody believed her, of course, and she was taken to the hospital, and she started to rally after a couple of days, and then she just really went downhill, and she died from her brain injuries.
And it's so sad. This is also, we've got to remember the circus. There wasn't really what we call OSHA in the United States. There wasn't somebody really going around saying, oh, this is safe, this needs fixed, so that's safe, that needs fixed. So it was a wild life that they had to have a lot of trust.
Or that they didn't have a net set up to catch her.
Oh, true.
And her husband was in a different country because he was an aerialist. He was her third husband, and he was an aerialist, and so he did a trapeze act, and he was in another totally different country doing his act and had to rush to her.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
Interesting, too, that she was almost 40 years old at the time.
Yes.
Today, those sorts of athletes are going to retire in their 20s.
Yeah.
She was still going. It's not old, but for somebody to be up there on the trapeze and the rings and the high wires.
And she was teeny too. She was only like 4'9".
And let's talk about bingo then. Let's go ahead and get started with our first bingo game. This is kind of just a homage to circus. It's going to have a couple different types of acts, food, things like that. For those of you that are new to bingo and have not played bingo before, let me go through the rules real quick. So a person can only win one prize every 6 months within WikiTree. So if you won something, say at a Connect-a-thon or somewhere else, it counts for that 6 months. This isn't just exclusive to bingo. So if you've won anything in WikiTree in the last 6 months, then you're not eligible to win a prize, but you can still play around with bingo. Just do not shout bingo. And only one prize per household every 6 months. We want to share the fun and share the prizes around. The prize is a mug. There's so many different types to choose from. And not just WikiTreeers to play. Everybody can play. So bring your friends, bring your family. If you're having a big cookout this weekend or your family around, everybody can play on their separate device and still be eligible to win. There are going to be 2 bingo games, so there are 2 prizes. How do you play bingo? You take that card, you click on the link I put up there, and there should be a free space. I think it's cotton candy is the free space I picked this time. You click on that right now, and if you accidentally click on something and you didn't mean to, just click it again and it'll erase. You want to do horizontal, vertically, or diagonally to win bingo. And I always say 5 of you might win bingo at the same time, but it's whoever types in bingo first in the chat is the true winner. And feel free to type it so I can see it, yell at me. We don't mind that because we do get to talking a lot when we talk about this. And do not close down your bingo card. let's make sure that someone actually does have bingo. We do have a certain WikiTreeer that likes to attend the noon bingo, and before the bingo game even starts, he will say bingo, which we know is not valid. So don't close down your bingo card yet until we confirm that there's a bingo. If you do win bingo, your WikiTreeer, please provide your WikiTree ID. That helps us out. And let's go. Okay, so everybody, tell me, what is your favorite circus snack? Okay, this is going to be a name. Let me double check too, because make sure that I gave everybody the correct bingo. I think I did. Does everybody have bingo names or bingo snacks on your bingo card? We'll give everybody a second to let me know. I might have got the bingo cards confused. Names. Okay, thank you, Jogo. Okay, so Isaac. And then we have the Flying Lindas.
Yeah, this is an interesting one as far as connections. They have it's a huge family that's been around for over 100 years in the circus, still active today. They do tightrope walking primarily, but they're the ones you'll see where they've got people standing on the shoulders of people and sitting on chairs balanced on the head of somebody else and all that. And yet their CC7 for the root of this family is only 19.
Oh, really?
And it seems like there's more than 19 flying Walendas, so I'm not sure how that works out. I didn't have time to go back and evaluate it.
I'm getting anxiety just thinking about them
walking
on that little rope over like canyons and things like that you know. I believe, you guys aren't going to have you fact check me, but I believe one of them passed away because he did fall.
Well, actually, a whole group of a portion of the family. There was a big accident many years back where several of them, I believe, were killed.
And they still win.
And they still do, yeah.
I got anxiety just thinking about it. Eddie
Winokur was a so I put Eddie in there because, and I got short on time. I wish I could go back and find out. He was a profile I created 2 or 3 years ago when I was doing some other vaudeville celebrity, and it got into the whole circus group, and I can't recall who the original celebrity was, and I wasn't able to backtrack and figure it out. But he was a band leader, a very famous circus band leader. And, the bands back then, not only were they entertainment, but they did a lot of cues. When the band played, that was the cue for the actors to, move on to whatever else they were doing. Or if there was an incident, let's say one of the lions was getting out of hand, the band leader knew what music he was supposed to play to cue people into what needed to be done and handled. So,
and a lot of these comedians and ringleaders did come from vaudeville. I'm glad you mentioned that. And we just talked about Miss Lily.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
David, I have a question.
Sure.
Burt Lancaster, can I add him to the page? Because he started out as a circus performer.
Sure, if he was in the circus. Yeah, one thing, we had an original list that we came up with, and as we were going through, a lot had to be taken off because they were acrobats, but they never were in the circus. So Chiquita was married to Eddie Winokur, and she was Chiquita the doll lady. She was a dwarf, considered the smallest woman in the world at the time, and yet she had quite a successful career. And she was from Cuba, I believe. So talking about the international aspect.
Hey, that's kind of fascinating about Burt too, because you see him, I'm thinking of all these movies that I've seen him in, and I just can't see him in the circus now because I've seen him in the movies. Felix Adler.
Felix Adler. I'm going to look that one up. Oh, Felix Adler is a famous clown. I wasn't familiar with him, but he has Wikipedia pages in lots and lots of languages. So apparently he's fairly well known.
And then
Where's
P.T.
P.T. Barnum?
We've talked about him, and definitely go check him out and see how you're connected to him. With 22,000 CC7, and David, you were almost a straight bloodline connected to him, right?
Yeah, there was one marriage on my line. I'm 17 away from him. Mabel Stark. Did I refresh my name? So Mabel Stark was a tiger tamer. So this fascinates me too. Mabel Stark was born in 1889. So, you know, she's growing up around, 1900 or so. How does a young girl on a farm in the Midwest America take up a career as a tiger tamer? Where did she even get tigers to practice with?
She was dreaming of something
yeah.
other than wheat and corn.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just fascinating that, it's so out of the norm for the time.
Okay, we've got a lot of people with one more to go. Let's see if this next one is the one they need. Ah, it is. So Gene Blondin?
Gene Blondin. He was a very famous tightrope walker. And he was famous, kind of what we were talking about, the flying Melendez, although he did it on his own. He would carry people on his back, or he would, balance on a chair. So he took tightrope walking up to kind of a new level.
And we have a bingo. We have a bingo winner. And Anne, what you're going to do, and I love this, Anne, you're always such a great person to show up for us, and Anne always, because we seem to forget, Anne always reminds everybody to click the like button for us so we know that this is something that you like and enjoy and want us to continue. So I'm thrilled that you won this time, Anne. And we're going to email aowen@wikitree.com and just tell her you want the Friday bingo at the 6 o'clock, and she will send you all the information you need to get your prize. So congratulations. And this is exactly how I do it. Just yell it at me. Bingo, bingo, bingo. Okay, so I think we should move on to the topic that is a little tricky. As we know, some people have very big concerns with circus. We've kind of mentioned it on talking about the animals, but there's a lot of concern with circuses, and there's a lot of concern with certain group of individuals that were hired by the circus to, I guess, perform. Would that be the correct word, David?
They would perform, some of them, but also some of them were just on exhibit. They would just sit there and people would come stare at them like you do at the zoo. And depending on who they were and what circus it was with. There was the first woman on our list was Joyce Heth, and she is, we don't have a profile up for her yet. She was a slave who, from years of working out in the cotton fields, that was quite weathered and aged beyond her years. And P.T. Barnum put her in his circus, claiming that she was 116 years old. She was not 116 years old. She was probably in her 70s or 80s. But her job was not to perform. It was just to sit there so people could gawk at her. And I don't know how well she was treated or not treated. Apparently, P.T. Barnum insisted that when she died, that she be given full funeral. And again, she died in 1836, so this was 30 years before the slavery. So he had some respect for her. But on the counter to that, he also allowed her to have a public autopsy. 1,500 people attended her autopsy.
Oh my gosh!
Where they could determine whether or not she was really 116 years old, and it was determined that she was not. Which P.T. Barnum then said somebody had switched the bodies, and that was not her. That she was off in out in the world somewhere performing or traveling the circus route. And that it was a imposter.
Good old PT. He has for everything.
But it's really hard to put your head in the mindset of people from another time. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that under any circumstances, I would pay money to go watch an autopsy of somebody. That just doesn't seem entertaining to me. But back then, they got 100 or 1,500 people that actually paid for tickets to see it. So it was a different world. I can't get my head around it, but
we recognize that to the sideshow performers, this is something that in modern times we would not really
you would
put up
never
with.
do this.
This would not happen. This was, a lot of times back around the Dust Bowl, the Depression, things like that, a little bit earlier than that as well. And that families were hungry and they did try and find ways to make money. And if you had in what was considered then an oddity, then it was pretty much marketed. It's not something that any of us, I think, agree with, or at the time, I know that we would not be paying for something like this now. David and I went back and forth about showcasing them, and I think, David, we came to the point that we wanted to showcase them for two reasons: to say that this was not really appropriate to do, but also they don't deserve to be hidden either.
Right. Yeah, they were showcased. I mean, they were called freaks. They were freak shows.
Yeah.
And that's sad. We would not do that today. But at the time, they were some of them, and particularly in the beginning, they didn't have other opportunities either. And some of these actually became quite famous, fairly wealthy, and these were opportunities they have. Just like, I say we wouldn't do that, but you go on to some of the cable TV shows, channels, The Little People and all of that, and there's an argument that it's, somewhat educational and informs people, but some of it also is, it's kind of exhibitionism that we're drawn to. So it's a bit of human nature. But my hope with creating these profiles is that we don't just say, oh, look at these, freakish people, how weird they were, but we recognize that these were full human beings, that they had lives beyond just the circus. I mean, the circus was a big part of their lives, but where were they born? How did they get to be in the circus? What was their life like? Were they well treated? Were they not? You've got individuals like here. Maud Wagner was a tattoo artist, so she was there somewhat voluntarily. She was considered a part of the freak show because she was tattooed, and this is 1800s. You don't have tattooed women back then, but that was a choice she made in order to get fame and fortune, basically.
And she also did tattooing outside the circus as a job.
Yeah, she was a tattoo artist. That was her primary job, but she marketed herself to the circus as a sideshow. You had strongmen and you had other individuals. If you go back up to the top, there's two there. Charles Stratton, he was General Tom Thumb. He was very famous, became very wealthy as a kind of a superstar in show business. I don't know. Again, I haven't read his full biography, so I can't say how well he was treated in the beginning. But I know he became very successful in the end. And when you're, when you have a disability that prevents you from making a living in the real world, and the circus might be the only opportunity.
If you're hungry or you have a family to eat and a roof over your head, and I'm really glad that we did. I know that this is a tough subject. We're not going to deny that it's not a tough subject. These are notables. They are on also Wikipedia, and we'd like to take them on a genealogical aspect and create their trees and give them back the respect that they deserve. And if we see somebody who might have a condition in modern times, we need to recognize that they're just a human being. They're not going to be any different. If they get cut, they bleed just like us. If they hurt, they lose somebody, they hurt. It's the same thing. We're all part of this human world. And what we're trying to do is bring recognition to these people because they did the best they could to make sure that they had food.
Just like everybody else, their stories deserve to be told.
They really do.
And people don't stop and think sometimes about how, other than whatever their unfortunate circumstance was, that they were really normal. They married other circus performers. They had children.
Yeah.
They just, other than they were part of the circus, they were just like everybody else.
Right.
They really were. And that's why we encourage you, especially this month, to go and look at the table and let's give them some love to their trees, their family trees on WikiTree. So then when somebody comes and searches for, you know, the elephant man or whatever it might be, they just don't hit a profile and that's it. Instead, as Dee said, they're going to hit a profile and they're going to see they've got family and they've got other people that are connected to them. And then that becomes part of their story, as opposed to their only story being their a quote unquote oddity. I'm saying that word because that was a word that was historically used. It's not a word that I personally would use towards these individuals.
Well, it's better than freak.
Yeah, I agree. And this is a way that we can kind of give back and kind of recognize them and give them the respect for they're pretty brave. They probably, you know, as David said, the one lady just sat there. Can you imagine sitting somewhere and having thousands of people stare at you and talk about you like you're not there? It's amazing.
So just like being in a zoo.
Yeah. And these are human beings. These are people. So, and
you know, this one woman down here, Mary Ann Bevan, that you're on right there, she contracted some sort of disease. I'm not sure what it was, but it caused her face and arms and legs to become distorted and deformed. And she was picked up by the circus as the ugliest woman in the world. And that's how she became known. Now, it's even if she was a willing participant in that, to refer to yourself as the ugliest person in the world, that's sad.
I mean, we all have self-esteem problems at any given point in time, and to imagine that this person was doing this because she needed the money and probably, you know, started to believe maybe this is true, and then everybody that's coming, like David said, you know, like in a zoo, just coming up and looking at you. So I'm really glad that we did keep them in. Let's give them the respect that they need. You see that David had mentioned that they are a work in progress. All the ones that you see in red do have Wikipedia pages that, as you know, the Notables Project requires us to have.
Can we do one more thing before we leave this 𝐁𝐢𝐬𝐭 bunker up at the top there? If you click on their profile, first thing, they had 21 children amongst them.
Really?
So there's a lot of descendants. I was curious how they had such high CC7s because they're from Siam, and they were the first Siamese twins. That's where the term came from. But you look at him; he's got 5,720 connections. Now go to his brother.
And his brother was.
It's in other siblings. It says in. Yeah.
There we go.
4,800.
I am closer related to them than I am P.T. Barnum with 22,000.
Oh, really? But I find it fascinating how the discrepancy between their CC7s.
Yeah, and they are Siamese twins, 57.
Yeah. I mean, it's 1,000.
48. No way.
You know, one has 1,000 more relatives than the other.
Very interesting.
Interesting. But this is another example of a pair of individuals who had probably had very little opportunity in life, and they were picked up by the circus and they became very successful. In fact, they came to America from Siam, didn't speak English, they learned the language, and 3 years after they got here, they broke away from their circus and became independent, managed themselves. And
why not? You know?
Yeah.
Why cut out the middleman? Why not?
but it's impressive. And they married, they had children, lived long lives. So it wasn't a bad thing necessarily for everybody, but for many it was just pure exploitation.
So thank you guys for being here for the circus and talking about the sideshow. We've got one more bingo card that we want to talk about, and I will bring that one up right now. There we go. Let's hope this one is the snacks. Okay, I've got this right. This will be the snacks. Again, same rules apply for bingo that we said before. If you've already won, and that means you get 6 months. So you can start the ticker now, or when you can win another month, another prize. So let's go ahead and
So in 6 months, is she eligible for the first game or only the second game?
That's a good question. And hit me up in 6 months. We'll figure it out. Okay, so funnel cakes. And this is where I want everybody to tell me, what is your favorite circus food?
It's not funnel cakes.
Not funnel cakes.
No, I never cared for funnel cakes.
Really? Waffle sticks is a new thing. This is a new generation thing. I did not have it. I don't know if I'm showing my age, but I didn't have, popcorn and circus peanuts. Those were the only things that I remember. But the popcorn, you had your choice of the plain with butter or like the Cracker Jacks. Oh, I can't believe Ann mentioned elephant ears too. Most people don't know what elephant ears are. So fire eaters, this has a combination of circus acts as well as food. I've never seen a fire eater. Have you guys?
I don't know what that is.
You know where they take that fire and they push it down their throat? This is part of the purposes of the food.
Oh, all right. I see. No, I don't think I've ever seen one. Unicycle.
And then unicycle. And then my other question for everybody watching, and you guys, has your mother or have you ever said, this is like a 3-ring circus in here? That was one of my mom's favorites. Yeah. She had 3 kids, so that was always in juggling. Tried it, did not work.
Yeah, I tried it with 1 ball and I still couldn't get it.
I've done it with 2.
When it was very, very little, I did it with eggs. It didn't work out well.
It's supposed to be easier if you start out trying to do it with scarves.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I've seen that done.
Corn dogs.
Yeah, see, I'm not really a circus food guy.
And caramel apples.
No.
See, I more candy apples than caramel apples.
Yeah, if I want to keep my teeth in.
Yeah. It looks like, though, overwhelmingly, I think cotton candy might be for the win. So this one should have cotton candy in the middle. So everybody should have clicked that one as well. And this is funny. I love fair food, too. And the fair food has gotten more bizarre as we go through modern times. My granddad said the best way to learn juggling was raw eggs in the living room. That must have been it, though, because I did raw eggs in the kitchen. It did not work. Well, they ended up being wrong because the egg shell broke. One away and can't win, and one can't win, but I did. Thank you guys for being honest with that. And tightrope still gives me, I just don't understand how they put a body on something so thin and they can walk it at a long distance and knowing that death is underneath them.
And David said that he had a hard time watching trapeze acts.
Yeah.
The tightrope is the one that gets me.
Yeah. Tightrope too. Any of those up in the sky.
I can feel that in like anxiety just thinking about it. In North Georgia, they have a really, really big canyon, a park that you can go down and hike. I don't do it because about, I'd say 10% of the people need a helicopter to get them out because they just can't get back up. It's so strenuous. But one of the Lindas did it.
Yeah. See, I've got kind of like a reverse fear of heights. I don't mind being up high myself. I don't like to see other people up high.
In Ringmaster. I mean, who doesn't love that red coat the big hat. And he's in charge, and it's really cool. If what David said earlier, there would be a certain song come on. If it was like "uh-oh," or a certain song go off that says you better leave the ring, the next act is coming in.
Yeah, and the ringmaster has a much bigger role than just announcing acts. He's kind of the conductor of the circus. Oftentimes, they're the owner of the circus.
It's such a personality, you're sitting there, you're waiting for the circus to start. They're doing all the weird lights, and then here comes this guy or lady all dressed up in daredevil acts. A lot of those also are involving vehicles. They're starting to get rid of those, but it seems like once cars became a little bit more popular, and I know in the 70s, the daredevil acts, and I'm thinking 𝐁𝐢𝐿 𝐭𝐸, even though he was not circus, but those type of things where they would try and jump over people with their vehicles or their motorcycles.
Well, and that's what's happened is a lot of daredevil acts in the last century, let's say, have had to leave the big top because they needed something bigger and better. So crossing the Grand Canyon or the motorcycles and the jumping over buses and all that.
Or the motorcycles that are in the sphere, going around, and they're going in different directions, and how they miss each other. Huh.
I gotta tell you, that's just something I've never wanted to do, is jump over the Grand Canyon in a motorcycle. That is not on my bingo card this year. Illusions. This has become a pretty big thing in different ways. We're not always talking about the woman getting solved in between. Cirque du Soleil has a little bit of mystique going on with it. I like how Steven says, kids today, they have no guts. Trampoline acts have become pretty big too, especially almost every kid in my neighborhood.
Yeah, that's a new thing with the kids. There's a lot of we used to have the trampolines, but we didn't take it as seriously as a sport as they're doing now.
When I was a kid, probably 1969, somewhere around there. Miss Illinois won Miss America by doing a trampoline act as her thing.
I did always wonder what act would I do, and I came up with nothing. But now I'm thinking trampoline could have worked. Well, we do have a bingo, and Karen won bingo. So congratulations, Karen. And I'm going to recommend the same mug that I recommended to Shelly at the noon bingo. Here's a fabulous Appalachian Mutt mug that has your name on it if you're interested. But email Eowyn and let her know that you won the bingo at 6 this Friday, and she will send you all the details and all the different types of mugs that you can get. There's still the bingo
Lots of global mugs.
I know. I love the one on the left. That's my favorite.
With this one?
I just love the color. It feels so global. And I also love
And you can get it in all the different colors. The light blue is an option, but you can get it in black or orange or whatever color you like.
I like that one because it has your spirit animal. I always tell you that. I love the spirit animal. So thanks, guys, for joining us. Again, many thanks for helping us out last month when we had to step away from our computers. You really did a great job goofing up these profiles and throwing some our way.
Thanks for allowing me to be a part of it. I appreciate it.
No, we love it. And I will give
thank you so much, Dee.
A little hint. Dee will be back and a new bingo much later in the year with something very dear and near to her. And we'll let you know that a little bit later on. And David, on schedule for next month, I have something about a 10-star in the deputy on our list.
You do.
So that'll give everybody
We're going to have to pull out our notes and try to remember what we meant by that.
We will.
I know what we're doing next month. I got it.
I'm going to have to go get my 10-star, my big gallon hat, I think. Maybe the mustache too, as we get through. So thanks for joining us, everybody. We appreciate you being here. Click the like button before you head out for the weekend. And if you're in America still enjoying the barbecues and the cookouts, Stay cool out there because it's pretty hot. Bye, everybody.